Good evening, friends. Welcome to Unacademy GATE ESE. This is your educator Apuroop, and you are watching the lecture series of machine design. This is lecture number 17, Design of Bearings Part 3. We have already completed the design of rolling contact bearings, and today we are going to see the design of sliding contact bearings, design of journal bearing, which is very important from the exam point of view. So, beta, hit the like button and share the link with all of your friends. Good evening, welcome all of you. Please hit the like button and please share the link with your friends. This is the lecture series of machine design. It's a crash course on the machine design. Although I am covering everything, I'm not skipping anything. Just because it's a crash course doesn't mean that I will skip any topic. I have considered every topic. I have explained each and every topic, and we have also solved numericals from those topics. We have also solved all the PYQs of those topics. Okay, so it's a complete package of machine design. So you might have seen my earlier videos, earlier lectures on machine design. So how this lecture series is different from that lecture series, because this lecture series contains everything regarding those topics. It contains the theory of each and every topic, it contains the numericals, and it also contains the previous year questions of GATE. So that's why, beta, it is a single source of your preparation of machine design. If you are preparing machine design for GATE 2021, then this is a single source for your preparation. You don't have to open any book, you don't have to open any video lecture, you don't have to go through any other source of information. This is your single source for preparations of machine design. That is my guarantee. If you watch this lecture series, then your entire machine design will be over for GATE 2021. If you're watching me for the first time, let me introduce myself. My name is Apuroop, All India rank 320 in GATE Mechanical. I was called for the interview of IOCL, but I never went there because I wanted to join IIT Kharagpur. So I did my MTech from IIT Kharagpur, and my specialization was mechanical systems design. Then when I was in my final year, I was recruited by Mahindra & Mahindra, and I was placed at their research and development facility called Mahindra Research Valley. It is located in Chennai, where all the cars and tractors of Mahindra are designed. I worked there as deputy manager for 2 years. Then I decided to quit my job because I always wanted to teach. So I have been teaching for more than 6 years now, and I teach subjects related to design, strength of material, machine design, engineering mechanics, and theory of machine. And you can watch my entire lecture series of these subjects where? Simply open tinyurl.com/Apuroop10. All my lectures you will find at one place, and that too in a well organized manner. So just open any of your web browser and type tinyurl.com/Apuroop10. Don't search. Google search mat karo. Just open your web browser, and just like facebook.com, youtube.com, google.com, you open tinyurl.com/Apuroop10, enter, and you will open this page where you can see all these folders of ebooks, and you will find these Excel sheets. In these Excel sheets, I have uploaded the links of all my classes, whether those classes are on YouTube or on Unacademy special class. And this entire content is completely free. This entire content is completely free. You don't have to pay even a penny. आपको एक पैसा भी पे करने की जरूरत नहीं है, और पूरा का पूरा कंटेंट जो है free of cost hai, and I have covered the entire syllabus of strength of material, machine design, engineering mechanics, and recently I have started theory of machines too. I will tell you about it later. So recently मैंने theory of machine की classes भी चालू की हैं. So all of this you can find at one place, tinyurl.com/Apuroop10. If you open any of these Excel sheets, you will see I have prepared this entire Excel sheet of the subject. One by one, each chapter, each topic is covered. YouTube class link is given, PDF link is given, and if I have taken DPP, DPP means daily practice problem, then that link is also given. So you can find everything at one place, tinyurl.com/Apuroop10. Tell your friends also about it. It is completely free of cost. You don't have to pay even a single penny. Completely free of cost lectures हैं, आपको कुछ भी देने की जरूरत नहीं है. All you need to do is just open this tinyurl.com/Apuroop10. Good evening Ankita, good evening Divyanshu, good evening Kalpesh. Please hit the like button and please share these lectures so that maximum number of students can watch. बेटा मजा नहीं आता है जब कम नंबर ऑफ स्टूडेंट रहते हैं, एनर्जी नहीं आती है, फील नहीं आता है. तो इसीलिए बेटा जनसंख्या थोड़ी बढ़ाओ, अटेंडेंस थोड़ी बढ़ाओ और शेयर मारो. लाइक तो कर ही रहे हो, शेयर मारो. ओके, एंड you can also follow me on Unacademy. Okay, I have a profile on Unacademy. Just open unacademy.com/@Apuroop and you will open my profile and you can watch all my special classes at one place. All these are special classes which are completely free. These are completely free of cost classes. What you need to do, just register yourself in the Unacademy app. Download Unacademy app and register. Okay, I will tell you the procedure. And I have recently started a crash course on theory of machine. I told you I have completed engineering mechanics, strength of material and machine design on YouTube, and theory of machine classes I have started on Unacademy special class. This is not on YouTube. This is on Unacademy special class. Okay, and it's a crash course on theory of machine which was started on 14th of December. We have already completed one chapter and we are in the middle of second chapter, velocity analysis. So beta, the classes take place every day at 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. Okay, there are two sessions every day at 2 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. So if you want to watch all these special classes and if you want to take part in this crash course, what you need to do, you just need to download. The first step, download the Unacademy learning app. It is available in Play Store or Apple Store, whatever phone you are using, and register yourself. And when you try to open your first class, if you are a first time user and you try to open your first special class, they will ask you for an invite code. So use this invite code, Apuroop10. This is the invite code you need to use in order to open your special classes. And apart from special classes, there are other free plans. There is Unacademy Combat, which is a quick quiz competition. Then there is a test series, free test series, mock test series. So beta, all this completely free of cost can be opened by using this code Apuroop10, and you can open all the special classes, not only mine, but every educator special class will be opened if you use this invite code. Okay, so don't forget to download the Unacademy learning app and use this code in order to open your special classes. Okay, and don't forget to follow my Telegram channel. This is my personal Telegram channel. Everything in this Telegram channel is posted personally by me. तो इसको follow करना मत भूलना, because all the notifications of my classes will be available here. Okay, and all the links of my classes I daily post here. And a very important news for all the GATE 2022 and 2023 aspirants. If you are in your second year or third year or final year, then beta, this is a very important news for you. Unacademy we are launching 2 batches for GATE 22 and 23 aspirants. One is known as Evolve batch and one is known as Ascend batch, and these 2 batches will be launched on 28th of December on Unacademy Plus. So beta, what do you need to do in order to get into these batches? And understand, these batches will be taken only by the top educators on Unacademy. इन बैचेस में सिर्फ टॉप एजुकेटर्स पढ़ाने वाले हैं. जितने भी टॉप एजुकेटर्स हैं हर सब्जेक्ट के, सिर्फ वही इन बैचेस में पढ़ाने वाले हैं. सो दीज बैचेस विल बी द बेस्ट बैचेस अवेलेबल ऑनलाइन बेस्ट बैच पूरे इंडिया में. ऑनलाइन बेस्ट बैचेस will be these 2 batches. Okay, and they will be started on 28th of December. So what you need to do, you need to take Unacademy Plus subscription. What are the advantages of Unacademy Plus subscription? I will tell you in detail at the end of the video. So beta, if you want to join, then there are 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 year, 2 year plan. Take 1 year, 1.5 year or 2 year plan, and don't forget to use this code Apuroop10. If you use this code Apuroop10, you will get 10% instant discount. So 1 year fee will be this much, 1.5 year fee will be this much, 2 year fee will be this much. And if you use this code Apuroop10, you will get my direct attention, my mentorship, my guidance. So beta, how to take advantage of these batches, how to take advantage of online courses, how to study, how to prepare, what should be your strategy, all of that will be discussed with me, okay? And you can also take Unacademy Iconic subscription where you are going to get a personal coach. So 1 year subscription fee is this much and 2 year subscription fee is this much, okay? It is available only for 1 year and 2 year, and you can still use my code Apuroop10 to get maximum discount on these courses, okay? So I will see you soon on Unacademy Plus. I want you to join Unacademy Plus, and I want you to join these 2 awesome batches by the top educators of Unacademy, of India, if I say. Now let's move on to our lecture. So we started the design process of bearings. What is bearing? It is used to support machine elements which are rotating, such as axles or shafts. Its objective is to support the load acting on the shaft and to permit the rotation of the shaft with minimum friction. And there are 2 types of load acting on the shaft: axial load in the direction of the length, radial load perpendicular to the length. Then we saw there are 2 types of bearing: rolling contact bearing and sliding contact bearing. Rolling contact bearing means the motion between the shaft and bearing surface is rolling motion, like this. This is rolling motion. And sliding contact bearing means the motion is sliding motion, like this, okay? Then we saw rolling contact bearings, the design of rolling contact bearing. Rolling contact bearing means there is rolling motion between the fixed and moving surface. Due to this, the starting friction and running friction is very low. It is almost negligible, hence they are known as anti-friction bearing. They are more noisy at high speed. So if you operate them at high speed, they will become noisy, and they are very costly. Their initial cost is very high. So that's why they are not used everywhere, okay? So where they are used, the application is in automobile front and rear axles, tool spindles, and small size electric motors. Then we saw the construction of a typical rolling contact bearing. So beta, these are the major parts: outer race, inner race. In between outer race and inner race, there are rolling elements such as balls or rollers which are fitted in this cage, and these sealants are in order to seal the bearing so that there is no contamination, okay? Then we saw there are 2 types of rolling contact bearing: ball bearing where spherical balls are used, roller bearings where cylindrical rollers are used. Then there are different types of ball bearing: deep groove ball bearing, angular contact ball bearing, then self-aligning ball bearing, thrust ball bearing. Then there are different types of roller bearing: cylindrical roller, tapered roller, spherical roller, and a needle bearing. Then we saw the design of these bearings. So we discussed that bearings are not exactly designed, they are chosen. They are already designed and they are already manufactured. They are just chosen. So there are some parameters based on which we choose the bearing. हमको कौन सी bearing चाहिए वो हमको choose करनी है, select करनी है. Bearing पहले से बन चुकी है, because these are the machine elements which are manufactured in a large quantity, so that per unit cost is very less, okay? Just like bolts. Bolts also you will find of standard size, right? M10, M12, M16 bolt, okay? आपको 12.56 mm की bolt नहीं मिलेगी. Why? Because beta, there are standard sizes, they are already manufactured, they are already designed and manufactured. We just need to choose our bolt, that okay, this bolt will be for me, this bearing will be suitable for my application. So you only choose a suitable bearing for your application, okay? So beta, there are some parameters based on which you choose your bearings. So beta, the first parameter is static load carrying capacity. What is static load carrying capacity? It is the static load at which permanent deformation is 0.0001 of the ball diameter. And what was the equation of static load carrying capacity? C0 equals to K into D square N by 5, where C0 is the static load carrying capacity, K is material constant, D is the diameter of ball, N is the number of balls, okay? Then life of bearing. What is life of bearing? We discussed that. The life of bearing is number of revolutions that the bearing can run without failure, and it is denoted in million revolution. 1 million revolution means 10 to the power 6 revolution. So beta, what is life of bearing? Life of bearing means a bearing, how many times it is going to run, revolve, how many revolutions it is going to make before failure. Okay, but I told you that we can't measure the life of each and every bearing. So what do? We select a few of the bearings, we perform the testing on those bearings, we find out the life, and then we say that these entire bearings have the same life. So if I say that the life of bearing is 10 million revolution, 100 bearings I have manufactured and I am saying the life is 10 million revolution, it is not necessary that all those 100 bearings will have 10 million revolution. Some of those bearings might have more than 10 million revolution, that is okay, but some of those bearings will have less than 10 million revolution. Means there are chances of failure. If you buy those 100 bearings and if you try to run them for 10 million revolution, then there are chances that some bearings will fail. So beta, how many bearings will certainly pass? कितने bearings जो हैं वो surely pass हो जाएंगे? That is known as reliability. If I say the reliability is 90% means 90% bearings will be safe, but 10% might fail. I don't know, but 10% might fail. So that is known as 90% reliability. 50% reliability means 50% bearings will surely pass, but other 50% might fail. So there are two types of lives. Rated life means the life at 90% reliability. Average life means the life at 50% reliability. Okay, and there is a relation between both of them. Average life is 5 times of rated life. This is the relation between average life and rated life. Okay, then we saw equivalent load. What is equivalent load? If there is radial as well as axial load, then combining them will give you an equivalent load, and the equation was this: V into X into Fr plus Y into Fa, where P is the equivalent load, Fr and Fa are radial axial load, X and Y are load factors, and V is race rotation factor. Then we saw load life relation, a very important relation. What was the relation? L10 equals to C by P whole to the power N. This is the single equation that you need to remember. Okay, and beta, if there are two loads and corresponding to those loads, there are two lives, then this is the relation between them. L2 by L1 equals to P1 by P2 whole to the power N, because C is constant. So this will be the ratio of two lives, L2 by L1. So you need to only remember this. In this relation, L10 is rated life, P is equivalent load. What is C? C is known as load carrying, dynamic load carrying capacity. It is the load at which the life is 1 million revolution. Okay. Now beta, I will explain SKF bearing designation. What is bearing designation? See, if you go to a bearing manufacturer company, or if you go to a shop which is selling bearing, then they will give you a catalog. In that catalog, every bearing is mentioned by some designation, some name. So beta, SKF is world's largest bearing manufacturing company, and they have their own designation system. They have their own nomenclature of bearing. SKF जो है वो दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी bearing बनाने वाली कंपनी है, और उनका खुद का एक designation system है, एक nomenclature system है. Okay, so according to SKF bearing designation, there are 4 letters which are used to designate a bearing. There are 4 letters which are used to designate a bearing. So let's understand one by one what is the meaning of these 4 letters. Okay, so these 4 letters are like this: 6, 3, 0, 6. Okay, let's say these are the 4 letters. Okay, now what is the meaning of the first letter? The first letter will tell you the type of bearing, first digit actually. Okay, the first digit will tell you the type of bearing. Okay, so there are different types of bearings: deep groove ball bearing, tapered roller ball bearing. So there are different types of ball bearing: tapered roller ball bearing, tapered roller bearing. Okay, self-aligning ball bearing, then spherical roller bearing, different types of bearing, and for each bearing they have given one digit. 6 is for deep groove ball bearing. Okay, 6 is for deep groove ball bearing. Six is for deep groove ball bearing. Okay. Then the second digit will tell you the size of the bearing. Second digit will tell you the size of the bearing. Size of the bearing means it will tell you the overall height and the width of the bearing. Okay, width and height of bearing. Now you might be thinking that how this one digit is going to tell me the height and width of the bearing. So what we have done is we have actually prepared different charts. We have actually prepared different charts of different width and height of bearing depending upon the inner diameter of the bearing and this digit. Okay. For example, let's say there is digit 3 and inner diameter is a particular inner diameter there is. So beta, based on that, from those charts you can find out what is the width and the height. Okay, so based on this digit you can find out from the charts what should be the bearing width and height. Okay, now these last two digits will tell you the diameter of inner race. Now how it works, that we are going to understand. How it works, that we are going to understand. Okay, so let's first understand the meaning of last two digits. Okay, so beta, last two digits multiplied by 5 will give you the diameter of inner race in mm. For example, let's say there is 6306 bearing. Okay, so beta, these last two digits means 06 multiplied by 5. 30 mm is the diameter of inner race. So do you understand how you are going to get the diameter of the inner race? Last two digits multiplied by 5 will give you the diameter of inner race. Okay, now you don't need to remember all these things. What will be the first digit meaning? What will be the deep groove ball bearing first digit? What will be the digit for the tapered bearing? What will be the digit for the self-aligning ball bearing? You don't need to remember that. You only need to understand what is the meaning of first letter for first digit, what is the meaning of second digit, what is the meaning of third and fourth digit. The questions will be based only on that. क्वेश्चन सिर्फ इसी के ऊपर आएंगे कि इन दोनों का क्या मतलब होता है, इसका क्या मतलब होता है, इसका क्या मतलब होता है. ओके, दे विल नॉट आस्क यू दैट व्हाट इज द फर्स्ट डिजिट if the bearing is self-aligning ball bearing, if the bearing is deep groove ball bearing. No. Okay, just need to understand that the meaning of first digit is this, the meaning of second digit is this. Okay, so beta, do you understand the meaning of first digit and last two digit? Now the confusion is about this second digit, right? Second digit. So let's understand how this second digit works. So if you open your design data book, you will find that there are different size charts of the bearing which depict the width and height, overall width and height of the bearing. Okay, overall width and height of the bearing. Okay, now understand what we have done is we have divided the size of the bearing in a different series. And there is series starting from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. This is extra light, then light, then this is extra heavy. Okay, so based on the smallest size to the largest size, we have divided the entire charts into these categories. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so beta, sorry, not 0 exactly, I don't think there is 0, 1. So beta, you have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 series. Okay, based on what? Based on what? The width and height of the bearing. There are different widths and heights. Okay, so let's say the second digit is 3. So beta, there is a chart for the third series. Okay, where you can find out what will be the width and height of the bearing. Okay, so it looks something like this. It looks something like this. Okay, there is 0. Okay, there is 0. Sorry. So beta, it looks something like this. You can see that in all these bearings, the inner diameter of the race is fixed. In all these bearings, the inner diameter of the race is fixed, but they have different width and height. They have different width and height. आप देख सकते हो कि inner diameter जो है वो सबका same है. Inner diameter सबका same है, मतलब diameter of inner race सबका same है, but still they have different width and height. Different width and height. Okay, so this is 0 series. This is the smallest. Then उससे थोड़ा बड़ा, फिर उससे थोड़ा और बड़ा, फिर उससे सबसे बड़ा. Okay, so you can see how the width and height are changing. Okay, so this is how you can find out the overall size of the bearing. Okay, the diameter of inner race will be depicted by the last 2 digits, and the width and height will be from this second digit. Okay, and the first digit will tell you about the type of bearing. So this is how SKF bearing designation works. तो SKF bearing designation clear है सबको? SKF bearing designation कैसे काम करता है? There are 4 digits, 6306 या 6201. इस टाइप से आपको 4 डिजिट्स दिए रहेंगे. उन 4 डिजिट से आपको क्या क्या पता चल जाएगा? टाइप ऑफ बियरिंग, विड्थ एंड हाइट ऑफ बियरिंग, एंड द डायमीटर ऑफ इनर रेस. ओके, सो दिस इज ऑल अबाउट द डिजाइन ऑफ रोलर बियरिंग. ठीक है, डिजाइन ऑफ रोलर बियरिंग. नाउ लेट्स मूव ऑन टू द डिजाइन ऑफ बॉल बियरिंग, सॉरी, sliding contact bearing. We have already seen design of rolling contact bearing. Now we will move on to the design of sliding contact bearing, and the design process of sliding contact bearing is completely different than rolling contact bearing. Why? Because in case of sliding contact bearing, the friction is very high, the heat generation and the wear and tear is very high, so you need lubrication, you need proper lubrication. Okay, good evening everyone, please hit the like button. Everyone, those of you who are present, please hit the like button and please share this link. यार मजा नहीं आ रहा है यार, और बच्चे चाहिए यार. क्या हो रहा है? ऐसे कैसे चलेगा? ऐसे कैसे चलेगा? अगर आप लोग ऐसे रोज 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 संख्या में गिरते जाओगे तो मजा कैसे आएगा? एनर्जी कैसे आएगी? ओके, सो आई वांट टू सी मोर एनर्जी, आई वांट टू सी मोर पीपल. ओके, सो प्लीज शेयर, प्लीज कीप शेयरिंग. शेयरिंग इज केयरिंग. ओके, तो चलो बेटा देखते हैं स्लाइडिंग कॉन्टैक्ट बियरिंग. सो वी हैव ऑलरेडी कवर्ड वन टाइप ऑफ बियरिंग, रोलिंग कॉन्टैक्ट बियरिंग. आज से चालू कर रहे हैं स्लाइडिंग कॉन्टैक्ट बियरिंग. ओके, ज्यादातर करके क्वेश्चन जो है वो स्लाइडिंग कॉन्टैक्ट बियरिंग से आ सकते हैं, क्योंकि स्लाइडिंग कॉन्टैक्ट बियरिंग में थ्योरी से पूछने के लिए बहुत कुछ है. ओके, रोलिंग कॉन्टैक्ट बियरिंग में देयर इज नथिंग टू मच टू आस्क. ओके, अब आते हैं स्लाइडिंग कॉन्टैक्ट बियरिंग में. सो बेटा ऑलरेडी बाय द नेम इटसेल्फ इट इज क्लियर. स्लाइडिंग कॉन्टैक्ट मींस if this is the shaft and this is the bearing surface, then the shaft surface will be sliding on this like this. Okay, it will not be rolling, the shaft surface will be sliding like this. Okay, sliding motion will be there, and if there is sliding motion, then beta friction will be high, and if the friction is high, then heat generation will be high, then loss of torque will be high, then wear and tear will be high. So beta, in order to reduce the friction, what do you need to do? You need to use lubrication. So beta, in rolling contact bearing we did not talk about lubrication. Rolling contact bearing में हमने lubrication की बात नहीं की, but in case of sliding contact bearing we are going to talk about lubrication. Lubrication is very important here because without proper lubrication there will be very high friction losses. Okay, तो इसीलिए lubrication यहाँ एक बहुत important role play करता है. Okay, lubrication plays major role in the design of sliding contact bearing. Okay, now Application, what are the application of sliding contact bearing? So it is used in the crankshaft of the engine, then it is used in centrifugal pumps, and it is used in large size electric motors. Small size electric motors use rolling contact bearing, but if the size is large, then initial cost will become very high in case of rolling contact bearing. So that's why we are using sliding contact bearing. Okay. Now sliding contact bearings are of different types. Majorly, we can divide them into two categories. Radial bearing, which will be taking only radial load, and thrust bearing, which will be taking only thrust load. So radial bearing means only sustain radial load. Thrust bearing means they only sustain axial load. Okay. Radial bearing ka example is journal bearing. Journal bearing is again of two types, full journal and partial journal. And thrust bearings are also of two types, pivot and collar bearing. Pivot bearing is again of two types, flat pivot and conical pivot. Collar bearing is again of two types, single collar and multi-collar. Okay. So beta, there are two major categories of bearing. Thank you so much, Ujjwal. Two major categories of bearing, radial bearing and thrust bearing. Radial bearing means which can only support radial load. Thrust bearing means which can only support the axial load. Okay. Radial bearings are of two types. Sorry, radial bearings means journal bearing. They are of two types, full journal, partial journal. Thrust bearings are of two types, pivot and collar bearing. Pivot bearing are further divided into flat pivot, conical pivot. Collar bearing is further divided into single collar and multi-collar. Now one by one, I will quickly tell you the differences in all these bearings using schematic diagram. मैं डायग्राम के थ्रू इन सारे बेयरिंग्स में पहले तो डिफरेंस बता देता हूं, देन वन बाय वन वी विल सी द डिजाइन प्रोसेस. मेजरली वी ओनली नीड टू सी द डिजाइन प्रोसेस ऑफ फुल जर्नल बेयरिंग. ठीक है, हमारे सिलेबस में सिर्फ फुल जर्नल बेयरिंग पे ही क्वेश्चन आते हैं. इन आवर सिलेबस there will be questions only from full journal bearing. You don't need to see the design of all these other bearings. Okay, there is only full journal bearing. Okay, आपको सिर्फ full journal bearing पढ़ना है, बाकी सब आपको पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है. But in order to have some idea what type of bearing is that, we will see the diagrams of these bearings. Quickly we will understand about these bearings through diagrams. Okay, तो एक एक करके पहले समझ लेते हैं. तो full journal bearing looks like this. Journal bearing means there is nothing but a sleeve over the shaft. What is the name journal? Journal मतलब क्या होता है? Journal means part of the shaft which is inside the bearing. See, these bearings are closed. Why? Because there is lubricant. There is lubricant inside them, so they are closed. So a part of shaft is inside this closed bearing. So how much part is inside this closed bearing? That part is known as journal. So journal means nothing but shaft. Journal का मतलब कुछ नहीं बेटा, journal मतलब shaft. The part of shaft which is inside the bearing surface is known as journal. Now full journal means there is 360-degree protection for the journal. Journal को पूरा 360-degree protection है. So beta, it doesn't matter what is the direction of radial load, it can sustain that load. Okay, first of all, journal bearing is only able to sustain radial load, and it can sustain radial load. It can sustain radial load in any direction. ये रेडियल लोड को किसी भी डायरेक्शन में सपोर्ट दे सकता है, even if the radial load is in this direction, in this direction, in this direction, in this direction, it can support that radial load. Okay, so this is full journal bearing which is supporting the shaft all around the bearing. Okay, तो क्रैंक शाफ्ट में, इंजन में जो जर्नल बियरिंग यूज होता है, द बियरिंग यूज्ड इन क्रैंक शाफ्ट और द बियरिंग यूज्ड इन पंप्स, द बियरिंग यूज्ड इन मोटर्स, दोस बियरिंग्स आर फुल जर्नल बियरिंग्स. ओके, बट इफ द रेडियल लोड इज ओनली इन वन डायरेक्शन, अगर रेडियल लोड जो है वो सिर्फ एक डायरेक्शन में आ रहा है, then you don't need to cover the journal all around the bearing. Sorry, you don't need to cover the journal throughout 360-degree. So in that case, we use partial journal bearing. So in case of partial journal bearing, only some part of the journal is protected. Okay. So beta, this is supporting the radial load in a particular direction. Okay. So this can support radial load in one particular direction. अब बेटा इसके एग्जाम्पल क्या होंगे? In which case you will get radial load only in one direction. So understand, in case of axles, there is radial load only in one direction. In case of shafts, load can be in any direction. Shaft के case में the radial load can be in any direction. But beta, in case of axles, the radial load is only vertical direction. Axle means which is not transferring the power, which is only there to support the wheels. जो व्हील्स को सपोर्ट देने के लिए, व्हील के वेट को सपोर्ट देने के लिए यूज हो रहे हैं, दे आर नोन एज एक्सेल्स. बट शाफ्ट्स आर ट्रांसफरिंग पावर, एंड ड्यूरिंग दिस ट्रांसफर ऑफ पावर, रेडियल लोड कैन बी अप्लाइड इन एनी डायरेक्शन. Even if you are using a belt drive or chain drive or gear drive, radial load are in any direction. It is not particularly in vertical direction. But in case of axles, axles are supporting only the weight of the wheels. So beta, in that case, the load will be only in vertical direction. So in that case, we will use partial journal bearing. So beta, they are used in रेलवे वैगन्स. रेलवे के जो वैगन्स होते हैं, रेलवे के जो कोचेस होते हैं, उनमें जो एक्सेल्स होते हैं, they are supported by partial journal bearing. Okay, the axles of railway coaches are supported by partial journal bearing. Okay, so this is the best example of a partial journal application of partial journal bearing. Okay, so is it clear? Full journal and partial journal, these both are radial bearing. Now we will see thrust bearing, where the load is in axial direction. Okay, now beta, understand, usually thrust load acts in case of vertical shafts. Okay, usually shafts are horizontal, but in some applications shafts are vertical. So in those applications, the load is in axial direction. Okay, so you can see that whenever there is an example of thrust bearing, the shaft is seen like this. Thrust bearing के आपने diagrams देखे होंगे, उसमें shaft vertical होता है. तो कई बार बच्चे पूछते हैं, a lot of times people ask me that journal bearings are shown like this, why thrust bearings are shown like this? Because journal bearings are used in horizontal bearings usually, and thrust bearings are used in vertical shafts. They are used in horizontal shaft, vertical shaft. Okay, so beta, understand, this is the shaft vertical and this is the axial load. You can see, I should name it FA. मेरे को इसको FA बोलना चाहिए. Okay, this is the axial load, right? This is the axial load FA. Okay, so you can see that in case of pivot bearing, base of the shaft is in direct contact with the bearing surface. जो शाफ्ट का बेस है वो डायरेक्टली बियरिंग सरफेस के कांटेक्ट में. लुक, यू कैन सी दिस इज द बेस ऑफ द शाफ्ट, राइट? दिस इज द बेस ऑफ द शाफ्ट. It is in direct contact with the bearing surface. Okay, and lubricant is flowing from this direction. Okay, you can see this is the bearing surface. So this is known as pivot bearing. Now understand, this particular bearing is flat pivot bearing. Why? Because the end of the shaft is flat. If I make this end like this, if I make this end like this, this is the bearing surface. Okay, this is lubricant. So if I make this end like this, then it will be known as conical pivot bearing. Okay, flat pivot bearing is also known as footstep bearing. Flat pivot bearing को footstep bearing भी बोलते हैं. Okay, so flat pivot means the end is flat, conical pivot means the end is conical. both are in direct contact. In both cases, the end is in direct contact with the bearing surface. So that's why they are known as pivot bearing. Okay. But beta, if the shaft is not in direct contact with the bearing, if there is collar on the shaft which is in contact with the bearing, the collar is attached to the shaft, this is the collar attached to the shaft, and the shaft is not supported, the collar is supported, then it is known as collar bearing. Collar matlab kya? मान लो this is my shaft, okay, and I have put a circular ring around it. मैंने एक circular ring लगा दी इसके ऊपर. Okay, if I have put a circular ring around it, then beta it has become a collar. Okay, मैंने इसके ऊपर एक circular ring लगा दी, then it has become a collar. So if I am supporting this collar like this, then this is known as collar bearing. Okay, एक circular ring पहना दो, एक मोटी सी ring लो, hollow circular ring लो, this will be the collar. Collar will look like this, a hollow circle. ये अपनी कॉलर है. ओके, सो बेटा दिस इज द कॉलर. इसको शाफ्ट के ऊपर पहना देते हैं, शाफ्ट को लगा देते हैं कॉलर पे, और देन द कॉलर इज सपोर्टेड टू द शाफ्ट. द कॉलर इज सपोर्टेड बाय द बियरिंग. ओके, सो द शाफ्ट इज नॉट टचिंग द बियरिंग डायरेक्टली, द कॉलर इज सपोर्टेड. ओके, नाउ इफ देयर इज वन सिंगल कॉलर, देन इट इज नोन एज collar, single collar bearing. And if there are multiple collars, अगर मैं multiple collars पहना दूं, if I provide multiple collars to the shaft, let's say this is the shaft, okay, and if I provide multiple collars to this, then this will be known as मल्टी कॉलर बियरिंग. ठीक है, एक सिंगल कॉलर कांटेक्ट में है, सिंगल कॉलर बियरिंग. मल्टीपल कॉलर्स आर इन कांटेक्ट, मल्टी कॉलर बियरिंग. ओके, व्हाई वी आर यूजिंग मल्टीपल कॉलर्स? in order to increase our contact area. If the area is increased, the load carrying capacity will increase. जितना ज्यादा area रहेगा support में, if the area is supported, the area supported is more, then the load carrying capacity will also be more. जितना ज्यादा area contact में रहेगा, उतना ज्यादा load ये sustain कर पाएगा. So that's why we can increase the number of collars. But if you increase the number of collars, if the area is increased, friction is also going to increase. Okay, heat generation is also going to increase. ठीक है बेटा, क्या कर रहे हो? 50 के पार ले जाओ ना यार, लाइक्स को 50 के पार लेके जाओ, ठोको लाइक और शेयर करो, ग्रुप्स में जाके भेजा करो ना यार. प्लेलिस्ट को कॉपी करके पेस्ट मारो, tinyurl.com/apuroop10, इसको पेस्ट मारो. टेल देम दैट देयर आर फ्री लेक्चर्स अवेलेबल. मेरे भाई इतनी मेहनत करने के बाद जब देखते हैं यार इतने कम व्यूज आ रहे हैं, इतने कम बच्चे बैठ रहे हैं, मजा नहीं आता है यार, मजा नहीं आता है. तो बेटा ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोगों तक आप ही पहुंचा सकते हो. ये लेक्चर्स एक बार पहुंचा के तो देखो. Just share these lecture once and then you will see, then I will see that automatically the number will increase. Why? Because I know that this quality of content at this cost, no cost, nobody can provide. Okay, so beta if we are doing this much, मतलब हम अपनी तारीफ नहीं कर रहे हैं कि अरे हम लोग इतना कुछ कर रहे हैं, हम तारीफ नहीं कर रहे हैं अपनी, हम सिर्फ ये बोल रहे हैं कि अगर हम इतनी मेहनत मार रहे हैं तो उसका फल तभी मिलेगा जब ज्यादा से ज्यादा बच्चे देखेंगे. ठीक है, तो बार बार ये रिपीट करना पड़ता है क्योंकि यार तकलीफ होती है, दुख होता है जब बच्चे नहीं बैठते हैं. ओके, तो आप समझ सकते हो भावनाओं को, तो भावनाओं को समझो और लाइक करो और शेयर करो. तो बेटा टाइप्स ऑफ बियरिंग तो कवर कर लिया. अब bearings can also be divided on the basis of type of lubrication. So there are different type of lubrication provided based on the need. किस टाइप की नीड है उसके बेसिस पे there are different types of lubrication. So what are the different types of lubrication? So beta basically you can divide the type of lubrication into these two types, thin film lubrication and thick film lubrication. Although there are other types also. There is zero film lubrication. Zero film lubrication means no lubrication. Okay, then there is elasto-hydrodynamic lubrication. Elasto-hydrodynamic lubrication means the load is so high that there is elastic deformation, and due to that the gap is provided in which there is lubrication. So beta, we don't need to get into all that. आपको वो सब पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है. You only need to understand two types of lubrication: thin film lubrication and thick film lubrication. And then thick film lubrication is divided into two types: hydrodynamic lubrication and hydrostatic lubrication. So is this clear to you? Thin film lubrication and thick film lubrication. Thick film lubrication are of two types: hydrodynamic and hydrostatic. ठीक है, अब देखते हैं एक एक करके. What does thin film lubrication mean? What does thick film lubrication mean? What is hydrodynamic lubrication and what is hydrostatic lubrication? Okay, so beta, thin film lubrication means what? पहले तो मैं डायग्राम दिखा देता हूं. Let me show you through the diagram. Okay, let me show you through the diagram. Let's say there is journal and bearing, and there is a very thin film of lubricant between that journal and bearing, and there is still direct contact between the journal and bearing. Okay, the load is supported directly by the bearing surface. Okay, because the journal and bearing are still touching each other, because there is very thin film of lubricant. एक बहुत ही पतली फिल्म है lubricant की इन दोनों के बीच में. Okay, there is very thin film of lubricant flowing between them, between the journal and the bearing. Okay, there is still direct contact, so this is known as thin film lubrication. This is known as thin film lubrication. Okay, so a very thin film of lubricant. Okay, there is partial contact. There is still partial contact between journal and bearing. दोनों के बीच में अभी भी contact है. The contact is not broken. Okay, the contact is not broken. You can see there is still contact between the journal and the bearing surface, due to which the bearing is directly supporting the load of the journal. Okay, there is a very thin film of lubricant. Now, where do you see this type of lubrication? Let's talk about the hinge of the door. Door का जो hinge है, the hinge of the door, if you drop 2-3 drops of lubricating oil in that, okay, if you put 2-3 drops of lubricating oil in that, then it will become a thin film lubrication. 2-3 बूंद अगर lubricating oil की आप अपने hinge में डाल दो, door के hinge में, look at the hinge of the door. This is like a bearing only, right? When you will rotate the door, then whatever part is inside that bearing, that will be like a shaft. Okay, so that is rotating inside the bearing surface. So beta, if you put 2-3 drops of lubricating oil in that, then it is a thin film lubrication. So thin film lubrication is used where the speed is less and the load is less. Speed and load अगर कम है तो thin film lubrication चल जाएगा. But if the speed is very high or if the load is very high, then what is going to happen? If there is thin film lubrication, there is direct contact between journal and bearing, then the bearing surface, the journal surface, they will wear and tear easily, rapidly. There will be high heat generation, there will be high friction loss, high loss due to friction. So that's why this type of lubrication is only used in applications where the speed is less, the load is less. Load कम है, speed बहुत कम है, तब तो चल जाएगा, otherwise नहीं चलेगा. So if the speed and load are high, then in that case we need a thick film of lubricating oil between the journal and bearing. So that is known as thick film lubrication. So if the journal and bearing surface are separated by means of a thick film of lubricating oil like this, the journal and bearing surface are separated by means of a thick film of lubricating oil, there is no direct contact between the journal and bearing, then this is known as thick film lubrication. So a thick film of lubrication, thick film of lubricating oil no direct contact between journal and bearing. Now the question is, in this case, the bearing surface is in direct contact with the journal. In this case, the bearing surface is in direct contact with the journal. So the load of the journal is supported by the bearing surface, directly supported by the bearing surface. But in this case, there is no direct contact between journal and bearing. So beta, journal is in the air, not in the air exactly. The journal is supported by this lubricating oil. Whatever load of the journal is, it is supported by this lubricating oil. So the lubricating oil must be pressurized. For example, agar compressed air hai, if there is compressed air, then it can support the load, right? But if the air is at atmospheric pressure, then can it support the load? If I put some compressed air in a chamber and if I put a weight on that chamber, then the compressed air will hold that weight, right? But if the air is at atmospheric pressure and then if I put the weight on the chamber, then the weight will fall, right? Because that air, the air at atmospheric pressure will not be able to support the load. So if the lubricating oil is not pressurized, then it will not hold the weight of the journal, right? It will not hold the load of the journal. So beta, this lubricating oil which is between the journal and bearing must be pressurized. It must be at high pressure. Now the question is how that pressure is created. So that pressure can be created by two methods. In one case, the bearing is known as hydrodynamic journal bearing, and in one case the bearing is known as hydrostatic journal bearing. So beta, there is a difference between hydrodynamic and hydrostatic journal bearing. What is the difference? How this oil is pressurized. That method is the difference between hydrodynamic and hydrostatic journal bearing. Hydrodynamic or hydrostatic journal bearing mein method of creating the pressure is different. So by the name itself, it is clear. Hydrodynamic means what? Dynamic means what? Dynamic means the journal is moving. So by the speed of the journal, the pressure is created. But hydrostatic means the pressure is not created due to the speed. The pressure is there even if the journal is static. So one by one, we will understand the process of creating the pressure, in this lubricating oil. Okay. So first we will understand the working of hydrodynamic journal bearing. Now understand, this is in our syllabus. Hydrodynamic journal bearing. Hydrodynamic journal bearing हमारे syllabus में है. The hydrodynamic journal bearing is in our syllabus. So you need to understand this working well. Hydrostatic journal bearing is not in our syllabus. Hydrodynamic journal bearing is. So let's understand the working of hydrodynamic journal bearing. How hydrodynamic journal bearing works. So understand the working. using these three diagrams. These are three stages of hydrodynamic bearing. What happens in these three cases? In the first case, journal is static. Okay, journal is at rest. In the first case, journal is at rest. So if the journal is at rest, then whatever the load of the shaft is, it is directly supported by the bearing surface. Okay, there will be no lubricating oil between them because the lubricating oil cannot be pressurized. The lubricating oil will be pressurized only by the speed of the journal. And right now journal is at rest. So there is no speed. Okay, so you can see that there is full contact between the journal and bearing surface. ठीक है, दोनों के बीच में complete contact, full contact है. Okay, let me divide these three. इन तीनों को divide कर लेते. Now understand beta, in the second stage what is happening, the journal starts to rotate. यहाँ पे मैं ये बना लेता हूँ. Here this is important to show the normal force. Okay, so this is the load of the shaft. You might be thinking, if the shaft is not rotating, then what load is coming onto the shaft? Beta, understand, even if the shaft is not rotating, there will be weight of the shaft acting. There will be weight of the bodies, devices that are mounted on the shaft. Gear is mounted on the shaft, pulley is mounted on the shaft. So the weight of that will also be acting. Okay, so that weight is directly supported by the bearing surface. Okay, ये ऐसा बनाना चाहिए. This is the normal force. Okay, this is the normal force. Okay, now understand beta, in the second stage the journal starts to rotate. The journal starts to rotate means it has just started to rotate. Arey baba, let's say your machine operates at 1000 rpm. So when you will turn on the machine, when you will turn on the engine, will it start rotating at 1000 rpm? No, na. It will start from 0 rpm. It will slowly increase its speed. 0 से लेके 1000 पहुंचने में there will be some seconds, right? Split second. It might be very less speed. Sorry, it might be very less time. Let's say it will reach to 1000 rpm within 10 seconds. But from 0 to 10 seconds, it will not be at its operating speed, right? See, the bearing is designed to operate at the operating speed. मैंने bearing को 1000 rpm के हिसाब से डिजाइन किया है. But 0 to 1000 rpm, the condition will be different. At 1000 rpm condition will be different, and 0 to 1000 rpm condition will be different. Yesterday also I told you that there will be two conditions, starting condition and running condition. Starting condition means the speed is started to increase from 0. Running condition means it is running at its operating speed, design speed. Okay, so beta, when it is just started means the speed is only started to increase 0, 10, 50, 100, 200, like that. Okay, so in that stage the lubricating oil will start filling between the journal and bearing. It will not be filled up completely. So initially what will happen, let's say the journal starts to rotate clockwise. The journal starts to rotate clockwise. So it will try to climb on the bearing surface. ये क्या करेगा? Bearing surface पे चढ़ने की कोशिश करेगा. It will start to climb on the bearing surface. It will go towards right. Understand? It is shifting towards right. Can you see? It is shifting towards right. Now understand beta. At this point, there will be partial contact. There will be partial contact between the journal and bearing surface. It will not be a full contact like this. Here there is full contact, but here there is partial contact. Means it is still in contact with the bearing surface. Journal is still in contact. So beta, here also the bearing will be supporting the journal. Here also the bearing was supporting the journal. Here also the bearing will be supporting the journal. But understand, in this case journal was at rest. But in this case journal is moving. So there is relative motion between journal and bearing, and if there is relative motion between two surfaces, what will be there, beta? Type in the live chat and tell me, if there is relative motion between bearing surface and journal surface, what other force will be acting apart from the normal force? What other force will be acting between them? नॉर्मल फोर्स तो आएगा ही आएगा, बट नॉर्मल फोर्स के साथ क्या आएगा? नॉर्मल फोर्स के साथ क्या आएगा? यस, friction force will be there, right? Between the journal and bearing surface there will be friction force. Understand what will be the direction of forces, okay? So beta, the normal, see, the center of the journal is shifted towards the right. Center of the journal, yes, very good Dinesh, very good Abhi, very good Ayush, very good Dibyanshu. The center of the journal is shifted towards the right. The contact point, initially the contact point was here, now the contact point is here. So beta, normal force will be acting like this. Normal force will be acting like this. And what will be friction force? Direction of friction force. This is acting clockwise. So friction force will be acting how? Friction force will be acting anti-clockwise. Friction force will be acting anti-clockwise like this, perpendicular to normal force, mu n, right? Now beta, the resultant of normal force and friction force will be in which direction? Resultant will be in which direction? Understand. Resultant of normal force and friction force will be opposite of W, because W is downward na. So resultant of n and mu n must be upward, then only summation of Fy will be 0. अरे जर्नल गिर रहा है क्या नीचे? Y डायरेक्शन में जर्नल मूव कर रहा है क्या? Y डायरेक्शन में इट इज एट रेस्ट ना, Y डायरेक्शन में रुका हुआ है, तो नेट फोर्स इन Y मस्ट बी 0. इट इज ओनली रोटेटिंग, इट इज नॉट मूविंग इन Y डायरेक्शन, इट इज ओनली रोटेटिंग. तो मेरे भाई रिजल्टेंट जो आएगा, रिजल्टेंट ऑफ n and mu n must be vertically upward, opposite of W. W and this resultant must be equal and opposite. So beta, now do you understand how the journal is supported? Here the journal is supported directly by bearing surface through this N. Here also journal is supported directly by bearing surface because there is some contact between journal and bearing. So there is normal force and friction force. Resultant is like this, okay? Resultant is like this. And in the third case, journal is rotating at full speed. मतलब कि if it is designed to rotate at 1000 rpm, then now it is rotating at 1000 rpm. Now there is no direct contact. Now there is no direct contact. Okay, here there was full direct contact. Here there was partial direct contact. Now there is no direct contact. You can see it is completely separated. There is a thick film of lubricating oil. ये पूरा separate हो गया है, एक thick film आ गई है lubricating oil की इन दोनों के बीच में. Is this clear to you? Now, in this case, what is supporting the load? Because there is no contact, so what is supporting the load? So understand beta, understand. In order to understand what is supporting the load, you need to understand this concept. Let's say that there are two surfaces which are converging in right side direction, and there is fluid flowing in between these surfaces. Okay, this is the fluid flowing in between the surfaces. The direction of flow is this. The direction of flow is this. This is what? Direction of flow. This is the direction of flow. So मेरे भाई, if in the direction of flow the fluid is converging, the surface between which fluid is flowing, if it is converging, then pressure will be created. Pressure will be created in this fluid. होने क्या वाला है? Perpendicular to this surface, pressure will be created. Perpendicular to this surface, pressure will be created. Okay. So this is what converging surface, right? Converging surface in डायरेक्शन ऑफ फ्लो. कन्वर्जिंग सरफेस है डायरेक्शन ऑफ फ्लो में, तो क्या होने वाला है बेटा? प्रेशर विल बी क्रिएटेड, प्रेशर विल बी क्रिएटेड in this fluid, pressure will be created perpendicular to this surface in the fluid. Okay, this fluid will be pressurized. क्या होगा? fluid क्या होगी? Pressurize होगी. fluid जो होगी वो pressurize होगी. Okay, so बेटा here understand what is happening. This journal is rotating like this. The journal is rotating like this. ठीक है, journal जो है वो ऐसा rotate कर रहा है. Okay, so the direction of flow you can assume is like this. The direction of flow is clockwise. Now in clockwise direction, you can see that there is a converging film. एक converging film बन रही है. Can you see this converging film? Can you see this converging film? Can you see this converging film? So beta, in the direction of flow, this is diverging, but this is converging, right? यहाँ से converge हो रहा है. तो बेटा diverging में कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, but in case of converging surface, there will be pressure in the fluid. There will be pressure in the fluid. There will be pressure in the fluid. तो बेटा इस converging surface में pressure develop होता है, which will be perpendicular to the surface. This is what the pressure, and this pressure will be supporting the load. Do you understand how this load is supported in this case? This pressure in the fluid is supporting the load. Okay, यहाँ पे direct normal force is supporting the load. Here the resultant of normal and friction force is supporting the load. But here the pressure which is built in the fluid, the pressure which is built in the lubricating oil is supporting the load. And this pressure is created due to what? It is created because the fluid is flowing in the converging surface, in between two converging surface. The fluid is flowing in between two converging surface. ठीक है, तो इस टाइप का केस बन रहा है. The fluid is flowing in between two converging surface, so that's why the pressure is created, which is supporting the load. So do you understand these three stages of journal bearing? Now in case of journal bearing, what is the problem? In case of journal bearing, initially when the shaft is rotating at low speed, when it is not reached to its operating speed, full speed, then beta there will be partial contact, there will be thin film lubrication. हाइड्रोडायनेमिक जर्नल बियरिंग में हमेशा थिक फिल्म लुब्रिकेशन नहीं रहेगा. द थिक फिल्म लुब्रिकेशन विल नॉट बी 100% टाइम initially, or when you will turn off the engine, when you will just start the engine or when you will turn off the engine, for those some seconds there will be thin film lubrication. Why? Because for those some seconds the journal will not be operating at full speed, it will be operating at less speed, and due to that less speed there will be not enough pressure, and that's why the journal will be directly supported by bearing surface. It will not be supported by the lubricating oil. So in that case there will be thin film lubrication, there is direct contact, there will be high wear and tear. During that some period there will be high wear and tear, high friction. तो ये चीज आप लोगों को क्लियर है, ये चीज आप लोगों को क्लियर है कि जर्नल बियरिंग में कुछ टाइम के लिए तो थिन फिल्म लुब्रिकेशन होगा ही होगा. नाउ बेटा इफ there is enough speed to create this pressure, then you can use the hydrodynamics bearing. Okay, if there is enough speed, मान लो if your journal is rotating at such speed that this type of pressure is built, then you can use hydrodynamic journal bearing. But let's say you are using you are using journal bearing for a case where the speed is not very high and this pressure is not built. So beta, in that case what you need to do? In that case you need to provide pressure by external source. So in that case we use hydrostatic journal bearing. So what happens in case of hydrostatic journal bearing? In case of hydrostatic journal bearing, pressure is provided by external source like pump. So you can see from pump we are providing high pressure lubricating oil. So even when the shaft is at rest, even if when the shaft is static, there is always thick film lubrication. Yahan pe until the journal starts at full speed, there will be no thick film lubrication. But here, and even if the shaft is static, if it is not even rotating, there will be thick film lubrication. Okay, so do you understand the difference between hydrodynamic and hydrostatic journal bearing? Now we don't have to consider hydrostatic journal bearing. In our syllabus, there is only hydrodynamic journal bearing. So we will see the design process of hydrodynamic journal bearing. Okay, how hydrodynamic journal bearings are selected, how they are designed. Okay, so beta, आज हमने देखा what is sliding contact bearing, different types of sliding contact bearing. We understood each and every type using these images, and then we saw the type of lubrication. This is very important. You will get theory questions from them. Thin film lubrication, thick film lubrication, types of thick film lubrication, hydrodynamic journal bearing and hydrostatic journal bearing. Okay, next class may I will explain, in the next class I will explain the entire working process of, the entire design equation of hydrodynamic journal bearing. Next class we will understand design of hydrodynamic journal bearing, and we will see numericals. We will solve numericals and PYQs. Okay, previous year questions and numericals. हम numericals solve करेंगे अलग अलग type के, and we will also solve previous year questions in the next class, which will be tomorrow at 7:30 PM. Okay, now don't forget this. ये मत भूल जाना बेटा, crash course of theory of machine is started. We have already completed engineering mechanics. We have completed strength of material together. We have even completed machine design. This is the second time I am teaching machine design, and there was only theory of machine left for me to teach you. So we have started crash course on theory of machine beta, especially on your demand. Okay, and it was started on 14th of December. It is still running. Every day I am taking class, one at 2 PM, one at 3:30 PM. Okay, the next class will be on Monday. Saturday and Sunday is off. Next class will be on Monday, and it's a special class on Unacademy, completely free. Special class on Unacademy, completely free. Okay, all you need is you need to have Unacademy app, learning app. So just download Unacademy learning app. It will ask you to put some code. So what will be your code to unlock? Apuroop 10. Apuroop 10 code you can use to unlock your special class. Okay, and beta you will find all the information and link on this channel, Apuroop 10. Okay, otherwise you just go to this tinyurl.com/Apuroop 10. just open your web browser. अपना web browser open करो, मैं आपको दिखा देता हूं कि इसको कैसे चलाना है. Okay, so just open your web browser. Just open your web browser. Okay, and type tinyurl.com /Apuroop 10. Can you see? And then enter. So when you will enter, you will see that there are Excel sheets of different subjects. There is an Excel sheet of machine design. There is an Excel sheet of machine design crash course. There is an Excel sheet of mechanics, Excel sheet of strength of material, and there is an Excel sheet of theory of machine. So you can see that I have uploaded the links of all the classes I have taken. For example, you can see the link of velocity analysis 1, velocity analysis 2, velocity analysis 3. If you click on it, then this class will be opened like this. Okay, can you see? In order to watch, you need to log in. So if you have already created your account, you can directly log in. If you have not created your account, you can create your account and then you can log in. But for the first time, if you are watching the special class for the first time, they will ask you about the invite code. So what invite code are you going to put? What will be your invite code, beta? Your invite code will be this: Apuroop 10, Apuroop 10. There is only one code for you, Apuroop 10. Okay. But if you use this code, it doesn't mean you can only watch my lectures. You can watch everyone's lectures. आप इस इनवाइट कोड को यूज करेंगे तो ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ मेरे लेक्चर्स आप देख पाएंगे, आप सबके लेक्चर्स देख पाएंगे, ठीक है. एंड बेटा, there are very important news for you. There is very important news for you. New batch is started on Unacademy Plus. It is launched on, it is going to be launched on 28th of December. There will be 2 new batches, one for GATE 22 aspirants, one for GATE 23 aspirant. One is known as Evolve batch, one is known as Ascend batch. What is special about these batches? What is special about these batches? Beta, in these batches, for every subject, there will be one top educator of Unacademy. Only the top educators of Unacademy will be teaching in these batches. The legendary teachers will be teaching in these batches. The teachers of years of experience who have taught thousands of students, who have already scored good in GATE and ESE. They will be teaching in these classes. So beta, this will be the best batch available online. ये ऑनलाइन लर्निंग में सबसे बेस्ट बैच होने वाली है, क्योंकि इस बैच में सारे लेजेंडरी एजुकेटर्स होने वाले हैं और इस बैच में सारे टॉप के स्टूडेंट्स भी होने वाले हैं, क्योंकि इस बैच में सारे के सारे प्लस के बेस्ट बच्चे एडमिशन लेने वाले हैं. तो अगर आप उनके साथ पढ़ना चाहते हो, बेटा देखो, गधों के साथ भागोगे तो फर्स्ट भी आओगे तो गधेर कहलाओगे, घोड़ों के साथ भागोगे तो लास्ट भी आओगे तो घोड़ा कहलाओगे. तो बेटा बेस्ट एनवायरमेंट में जब आप पढ़ते हो, बेस्ट बच्चों के साथ जब आप पढ़ते हो, तो उनकी संगत में भी आपको कई सारी चीजें सीखने को मिलती हैं. When you are among the best, you will try to become the best and you will become the best. So beta, to learn from the best, learn with the best in these 2 batches. So what do you need to do to take admission in these batches? You need to take Unacademy Plus subscription, or you can take Unacademy Iconic subscription. In Unacademy Plus subscription, you are going to get live classes, complete classes of every subject in English as well as in Hindi. You are going to get weekly test of every subject. There will be weekly tests so that you can understand how much you have understood about that subject. There will be doubt solving. These legendary educators are going to solve your doubts. There will be crash courses, beta. At the end of the day, when you will be completing your subjects, you will have crash courses, lots and lots of crash courses. There will be rank improvement batch. So a lot of there will be on Unacademy Plus. And if you want to go one step further, then you can have a personal coach with you in Unacademy Iconic subscription. Iconic subscription में आपके साथ एक personal coach रहेगा, who will be making your study plans, who will be making your study material. He will be there with you 24/7. To monitor your studies, to monitor your preparation. Now, what will be the advantage of Unacademy Plus subscription? What is special about Unacademy Plus? So understand, Unacademy Plus is India's #1 learning platform. It is designed and built for online learning only. So beta, we are updating our apps, we are updating our platform every day so that there will be best of the best experience to our students. For example, you can see a wonderful tool known as live polling and leaderboard. So whenever you have objective questions, the teacher will create polling where you will answer A, B, C, D, and after the poll ends, a leaderboard will be prepared. It is like a scorecard which will tell you your ranking and it will tell you your timing. कितनी जल्दी जवाब दिया, क्या आपकी रैंक आई. मतलब मान लो 10 क्वेश्चंस हैं एक क्लास में, तो आउट ऑफ दोस 10 हाउ मेनी यू आंसर्ड. जैसे यहां पे आप देख सकते हो कितना आप लोगों ने आंसर किया और क्या आपकी रैंक है, क्या आपकी टाइमिंग है. सो बेटा, आफ्टर एवरी क्वेश्चन द लीडर बोर्ड विल बी शोन. सो इट विल क्रिएट अ हेल्दी एनवायरमेंट इन द क्लासरूम. एक हेल्दी एनवायरमेंट क्लासरूम में क्रिएट होगा. बेस्ट ऑफ द बेस्ट बच्चों के साथ जब आप कंपीट करोगे, आपको आंसर देने की प्रैक्टिस होगी, ऑब्जेक्टिव क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करने की प्रैक्टिस होगी, क्योंकि आपके मैक्सिमम क्वेश्चन ऑब्जेक्टिव होने वाले हैं और आपको टाइम मैनेजमेंट की आदत पड़ेगी. विद इन अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम हाउ कैन यू आंसर द क्वेश्चन. सो ऑल दैट विल बी prepared by this tool. Okay, all that benefits you will get from this tool. Then beta, there is live interaction. Interaction is live there is so much interaction between teacher and students that you will feel like you are sitting in front of your teacher. Every student can ask questions in these comments and teacher can read the comments while teaching you. So beta, this is even better than the classroom. Classroom may be the students who are sitting in front, they can ask questions and they are also not allowed to ask too many questions. But here beta, there is no limitation. You can ask any question you want. Nobody will stop you from asking questions. And if you want to ask a big question, if there is a big diagram, lot of equations, then you can take the image of your question and you can send it to your educator. Your educator will teach, or your educator will read that question and he will solve that question in the class. And if you have this complaint that you don't get enough time to ask questions, the teacher just teaches and then he leaves, so that problem will not be there on Unacademy, because every fourth lecture is only for doubt solving. It is dedicated doubt solving class. So in this class you will only be asking doubts, so the teacher cannot leave you without solving your doubts. So this is the best thing that is available on Unacademy. And then there are multiple batches. There are lots and lots of batches, and the best thing is you don't need to pay separately for each batch. One subscription and you can join every batch. You can join any batch, you can join every batch. I am showing the best of the batches on Unacademy from the best educators. Top educators of Unacademy have taken these batches. Okay, you can see my batch also, Target 22. Then there is Target 21 batch. Then there is Rank Booster batch. There is Target ESE batch. So beta, there are lots of batches for different streams, for different exams. And the best thing is no limitation. If you have only preparing for GATE, you cannot join ESE. No, you can join anything. If you are from ME, then also you can watch XC batch, you can join CE batch, you can join PI batch, whatever batch you want, you can join. Okay, no limitation. One subscription and all of this is unlocked for you. Okay, so this is the best thing on Unacademy, which is not available anywhere else. कहीं भी चले जाओ, आपको एक single batch मिलेगी. In that single batch, whoever is teaching, you need to learn from him. But here beta, the best of the educators are there, and there are so many educators. You can choose your own educator. You can choose your own batch. You can even consider different batches. आपको SOM इसमें पढ़ना है, TOM इसमें पढ़ना है, मशीन डिजाइन इसमें पढ़ना है, इंजीनियरिंग मैकेनिक्स इसमें पढ़ना है, आपके ऊपर है. आपको जिससे जो पढ़ना है आप पढ़ सकते हो, जब पढ़ना है पढ़ सकते हो. That is the best thing on Unacademy, which is not available anywhere else. So if you want to get into these batches, all you need to do is take the subscription. 1 month से लेके 2 year तक subscriptions are there. But my suggestion is take 1 year, 1.5 year or 2 year subscription. Okay, why? Because beta, per month cost is very less. Okay, compare these per month cost, and if you are subscribing for 1 year or 2 year or 1.5 year, then you can take advantage of all these batches. यहाँ इतना सारा बैच बना हुआ है, इतना सारा ज्ञान बट रहा है, आप हर जगह से ज्ञान बांट सकते हो, हर जगह से ज्ञान ले सकते हो अगर आपके पास एक लंबे समय के लिए सब्सक्रिप्शन है. 1 महीने का सब्सक्रिप्शन लोगे, कितना ही पढ़ लोगे. तो बेटा 2 साल का, 1.5 साल का या 1 साल का सब्सक्रिप्शन लो and use this code Apuroop10. There will be a place to add your referral code. Put Apuroop10 as your code and you are going to get 10% instant off. So 1 year fee will become this much, 1.5 year, 2 year fee will become this much. And the best thing is you can pay this fee in EMI also. आप EMI पे ये pay कर सकते हो, no cost EMI, no additional cost. This divided by number of months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, 2 year EMI is also available. So beta, you can pay this in EMI. You look at the per month cost, only 1650 rupees per month, and you can join these legendary educators. Okay, so beta, don't forget to use this code. Why? 1, you will get instant 10% off. 2, if you use this code, whenever you use this code, whenever anyone uses this code, I get a notification on my app. So it will feel like you have shown your faith in me. अगर आप ये कोड यूज करते हो तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है जैसे आप मुझ पे भरोसा दिखा रहे हो, और अगर आप मुझ पे भरोसा दिखाते हो तो मेरे भाई मैं आप पे भरोसा दिखाऊंगा. I will teach you, I will guide you, I will prepare you, I will make sure that beta you will be taking full advantage of these batches and you will be on the right track throughout your preparation. पूरी preparation के time आप कभी भी मेरे से बात करो, call लगाओ, जब भी बात करनी है करो. That will be what I will be giving you if you are using this code Apuroop 10. Okay, so it will really make me feel that you have shown your faith in me. So I will see you soon on Unacademy Plus. I will see you soon in these batches. Okay, till then, please, there is Iconic subscription also, 1 year subscription, 2 year subscription, Iconic subscription where you get a personal coach. Okay, so beta, don't forget to use the code Apuroop 10 and I will see you soon on Unacademy Plus. Till then, please hit the like button, please share this link and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for joining. I will be seeing you soon. Bye bye, take care, good night.